Welcome back. We're back. Two fans, one Paul. Self-David Quiz, co-host KB Kirk Brown. Lovely as always. Week 12 recap already on the slate here, KB. Couldn't ask for a better day in mid-November yesterday in East Lansing. All things considered, we'll get into the game, KB. I thought the team had some fight, which is good to see, but just don't got the horses. But a crazy day, I think, in general in college football, along with the Michigan game. Lots of other games that we didn't cover that we will get into probably briefly as we get going. But throw it to you, see how things are going. I know the Lions are playing. Then we can jump into the games we broke down to start the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many close games. There was a perfect balance between the right amount of upsets and the right amount of close games that were almost upsets. So it was a really fun day to watch. I missed some of the later games. The Alabama-Oklahoma game, I was able to catch the end of that, but I was out at a dinner for my mother-in-law. It was their birthday on Friday, so
Happy birthday.
we kind of missed some of those games. But I was able to watch, I was able to watch Michigan pull out a gritty win. So it was just a full weekend of close games, and I'm excited for next weekend as well. Obviously, a little bit down with the SEC week, but overall, super excited. Quist, let's kick us off. Do we want to go games we didn't cover that were surprises, or do we want to get right into the games we covered and we'll talk about the surprises after?
Let's fly around the country later as we do in the stadium as well. But yeah, let's start with Notre Dame Pitt here. 37-15, Notre Dame wins. It seemed pretty handily. I know they had I didn't watch a lot of it. No TV at the tailgate this time. I know Jeremiah Love had a wicked spin move to make a big play. A good amount of turnovers I see as well, KB. You're probably more locked in than I was for this one. I watched some highlights as well, but it seemed like Notre Dame was pretty much on cruise control. Pitt had a little bit of fight in them, but, not too much, it looked like.
Yeah, I mean, this was exactly what I said with how Pitt was. I mean, they played a bunch of the bottom dwellers in the ACC, and they were able to rattle off a bunch of wins in a row, and people were like, oh my God, look at this team. And I was like, no, guys, I haven't played anyone at this level since the QB, Mason Heitzel, 16 of 33, 126 and a pick. The pick went back for a touchdown, which made it 14-0 Notre Dame early. Pitt showed some fight, but overall, I mean, Notre Dame just controlled the trenches. Pitt had 25 carries for 70 yards, and Notre Dame had 36 for 175. I think the more shocking thing here is C.J. Carr struggled a bit in this game. After he'd been so supremely hot, he had 2 picks in this game, 21 of 32, 212, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he'd been playing a little bit better than that, but again, it depends on level of competition and stuff like that. He also had just an okay day against USC when they ran the ball down their throat, but overall, really impressive performance by Jeremiah Love. I think Jadarian Price only getting 8 carries. I don't know if maybe he left injured, or maybe what happened, but I feel like he always needs to get around that 10-12 carry mark at minimum. Mm-hmm. But obviously, when you have a guy that's putting up 147, long touchdown run, it's hard to not feed him the ball. But overall, yeah, really impressive win. Malachi Fields, the receiver, had some awesome catches. One went up.
I picked him up for my fantasy like 1150 because Carnell Tate and Denzel Brown were hurt on my team. I made the playoffs, but yeah, picking him up and seeing 2 tutties 10 minutes before kickoff feels pretty good.
Yeah, and he made some incredible throws. There was an offside penalty that was going against Pitt, and Carr just kind of chucked it up, and this dude mossed a guy, went all the way over him. If you haven't seen it, I'd check it out. But yeah, Notre Dame, really impressive. They basically punched their ticket into the playoff with their win against Pittsburgh. They have remaining on the schedule Syracuse, who's 3-7, and Stanford, who's 3-7. So not likely going to be anything there. And what we thought was a pretty daunting schedule, all things considered. After the slow start, especially defensively, where they let up 27 points and 41 points, and then 30 points to Purdue. Following that Purdue game, they've really been able to kind of hang on into games. They held USC to 24 points, Pitt to 15, 10, 7, 13 against a really explosive Arkansas team. So really impressed with how their defense has kind of found their footing so far into the year, and they're most likely in. I hope that they don't have an opportunity to host because they basically, I don't know, it'd be weird, but I do hope that they don't get the benefit of not playing in a conference championship game, because if there's someone ranked ahead of them going into conference championship week and they lose and Notre Dame jumps them by the path of not playing, I'd be really upset about that. But yeah, they most likely punch their ticket as long as they take care of business next few weeks, which is, all things considered, really good. This is a team that can run the ball, and they're only going to get better with such a young QB. So that's like a really, really good thing to build momentum into on the end of the season. And they haven't lost since the first 2 weeks of the season also, so they're red hot in that circumstance too.
Yeah, KB, I was thinking while you're chatting about the playoff, I think this is an 8-9 game where they kind of slide in, probably being away. Not sure who they play now, how things will shake out down the road here, but I can see them being 8-9, hopefully 9 and not hosting. But I do appreciate the home teams playing in the cold. I do think there's an advantage there. I think we kind of saw that a little bit last year. I think all the higher seeds won as well, if I recall last year as well, KB. So
It is really weird. It was basically the seeding didn't necessarily pick out the best teams, but every team that was favored basically won every game of the playoff.
yeah,
Which is really funny because it's just like, yeah, throw out the odds and oh, that team wins, that team wins. But yeah, I mean, I think we definitely saw that with SMU with the way Penn State were able to kind of manhandle them. They looked cold, they looked frigid, they looked scared, not prepared for it. And it might be a little bit overblown because some of these states, you think of anyone in the SEC, you're like, oh, it's cold. But I think overall, it does have an impact on the team mentality. Tennessee tried to flex and go shirtless, which was stupid to try to show that they weren't scared of the cold, and then they got ran out of the stadium. But again, OSU was playing terrific football at that point in the season, and they looked way different than they did to end the season too, because you got a bunch of time to practice and clean things up in preparation of your first couple games.
I would agree. Let's jump to your game, KB. I watched the last couple minutes on my phone in Spartan Stadium, but Michigan finds a way to win 24-22, a messy game. I know Michigan outgained Northwestern by probably 200 yards. I'm not looking at this box score exactly, but when I watched back, I thought the Cats put up a fight. They made Michigan make mistakes when they were playing defense. I know Northwestern couldn't move the ball that well. A lot of field goals. It was a windy day at Wrigley, as always, in the Windy City. But the Cats are my second favorite team. I've had a long history with them, now over 10 years, which is crazy to say because of college football, NCAA football 14. Shout out Sam with that one. But yeah, I mean, Michigan found a way to win. I thought Bryce played, he moved the ball well, 2 picks and a couple fumbles. You guys, Jordan Marshall is a great running back. I'm glad you guys had a 1-2 punch. I know Haynes is hurt, which sucks. He's out for the year, I think, he had surgery.
Hurt now too.
Oh, who's hurt?
Marshall. He left the game.
Oh, yeah, because Bryson
with the shoulder injury.
How do you say it? Cusdale?
Cusdale. Just Cusdale.
Forest Hills Northern kid. I know he had a big rush towards the end of the game as well, KB, so it's cool to shout out a local kid. But that sucks that Marshall's hurt as well. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. But yeah, I mean, a good, scrappy, this is an old school kind of Big Ten game. Obviously, I know Michigan put the yards up, but when it mattered, Northwestern stepped up and made some plays. I was really hoping the Cats would knock off Michigan here. You know how much I hate that team. But, as soon as I saw you guys get that ball and I was watching it, I'm like, they're going to find a way to drive, and Zavada's going to have a nice chip shot and not miss another one.
Yeah, if you just look at everything outside of the turnovers, Michigan had 25 first downs. They were 9 of 14 on third down. They had almost 500 yards of offense to 245 for Northwestern. You're like, wow, Michigan laid it on them. They put up 45 points and ran away with it. And they just too many mistakes. We can. I want to go through a few of them. Some dumb calls, and I think the OC just getting a little too cute with it at times too. When Michigan had the fumble. The toss to Andrew Marsh. We had a young third string, it was kind of the backup fullback, number 42, Jalen Hoffman was in there. And I think if you have maybe your second string tight end making that block, he picks up the guy because the DN just ran straight up field. And normally that guy shouldn't be there, right? He should be following the fake down the line, and he just didn't block him. Like, he just has to get a chip on him, and it might be a touchdown the other way. And so that's one of those instances where I think, hey, you have such a young team on the field and you're doing so many good things. I just don't think that was probably the best time. I look at the fumble to Cusdale that Underwood gave him too high. That's the third string. Honestly, at the start of the season, Micah Campana was the third string running back. So this is technically the fourth string running back due to injuries is being elevated. He was a former walk-on. I don't know if he's even scholarship. Not to talk shit about Bryson, but how many times has the true freshman quarterback repped that with a redshirt freshman or sophomore? Yeah, I can't redshirt because he isn't scholarship, but a sophomore walk-on running back. So that fourth down is that shouldn't be the play call. It should have been, hey, let's empty out the formation. We'll put I can't think of Max Bredesen right next to Bryce, or right next to Bryce, and we'll just QB power or just QB sprint or something a little bit simple. If you want to run that simple of a play, like how many times have they repped it? And so that was kind of seemed dumb. And then the first pick that they had, that's 100% on the offensive coordinator. You have a true freshman on the road in the fourth quarter of a one-score game, 5-point game, and it's 3rd and 9. He's been pressured a good bit on the day, and you drop a play. And yeah, on paper there were guys open, but just in that situation, that's a screen for me. That's a delay handoff. That's something simple where, hey, you're deep in your own end. Like, probably isn't the situation. It's a long 3rd down where, like, you just can't put that on him. And Underwood made a terrible throw. He got to his first read. He got to his second read, saw that he was uncovered, right? But his eyes moving there brought the guys across in the zone. Then the RPO, that was just him being too greedy. He wanted to put his stamp on the game. He wanted to push the ball downfield. And the safety took 2 steps down and then 2 steps back, which means he didn't change his depth, which means you have to give it. Or at minimum, you have to kind of throw into the second slot. You can't throw it straight, right? You have to kind of loft it in a little bit deeper, but it's an RPO, so you don't have the time to do that. So that one was definitely on Bryce. And then the Samaj Morgan fumble, I mean, I feel bad for the kid because like he hasn't made a play. His freshman year, he looked fantastic. I think a lot of things were going for him. He had a really awesome punt return against Iowa, and since then he has not made a good play. Like I don't remember a single like terrific play he's made, which is unfortunate for him. But that ref, I don't know what they were thinking about. They didn't have view on the ball. They signaled that it was Northwestern's ball as if a Northwestern player fell on it directly in front of them and was running away with the ball. Like, I've never seen, before the pile even, like, people were still jamming into the pile and they were already signaling Northwestern ball. And then they get closer to the pile and the ball is directly in the middle of it and there's a person standing in front of her. She can't see the ball. And she starts pointing to Northwestern. She has no idea who has the fucking ball. She does not know. And then the person comes up with it at the bottom of the pile is Samaj Morgan. And then you go to the replay and both people have possession. Like, thank God Michigan won this game because that play doesn't matter as much. But that is like all-time horrible calls. Like, maybe one of the worst calls I've ever seen, where the person comes up from the pile with it. Both people have possession when they go down, which means that this lady who made a call where she couldn't see the ball determines it because it was an on-the-field call. Like,
that's a gut feeling, KB. I don't know. She went with her gut.
It's maybe the all-time worst. There's also the same one I saw a former clip, and you know how people can get on Twitter, where she called a block in the back on a guy who missed the tackle on a running back. Because she's like assuming calls. She's assuming things happen. She's not seeing it and reacting.
Yeah.
That was really bad. And I just, thank God Michigan won. But like that was one of those calls where like.
So you tell me the refs impacted the game?
Refs always impact games.
They sure do. I feel you,
Some teams can overcome it because
they're little bitches. We don't got the horses, man. We don't got the horses.
Yeah. But overall, I mean, Bryce, outside of 2 throws, played his best game.
Shout out Andrew Marsh. Had a
Andrew
fucking
Marsh,
game.
Over 180 yards receiving, 12 receptions, freshman record for Michigan. Really, really impressive performance. I mean, overall, like I was just really pleased with 90% of the way Michigan played all game. Yeah. It was just the 10% were like the 10% of the worst plays you've ever seen. Defensively, I mean, they stopped them a bunch of times in the red zone, short fields, forced field goals. I think the only problem I have is 3rd down and longs. I'm really worried when Michigan plays Ohio State and even Maryland. We do not cover their seams well. We let people run right down the middle of the field a lot without anyone being there. There's probably 4 or 5 passes in this game where he just threw seam balls and a lot of them were completed, and Preston Stone sucks. So, I mean, a win's a win. No one cares if Michigan goes on and beats Ohio State and turns them over 5 times. No one cares. But overcoming 5 turnovers and you having 0 turnovers is also impressive in hell, and it's a young team and it's a gritty team. But them looking how they did against Purdue going into the bye, you would hope that all that gets cleaned up, and then it looked just as bad out of it. So some growing up to do in the next 2 weeks. Hopefully that they can survive an away game at Maryland, and then they get the Buckeyes at home. But
That's a goofy
I'm
one.
also 500 yards against this Northwestern defense. You have to be super, super happy about it overall. You have to be happy about 280 yards passing. You have to be happy about 200 plus yards rushing. I mean, your backup comes in. He takes on 15 carries. Only 3.5 yards in average, but they were gritty, hard carries, and he showed some fight, which is really, really impressive. And so I think that you have to be extremely happy with how Michigan played the majority of the game. It's just some of their mistakes were just so tough, so huge, that it really, really hurt this team. And you can't win games like that, week in and week out, and thankfully they got away with it.
If you play with an offense with any kind of pulse, you're probably losing that game. Your defense played well, but just knowing Northwestern and how they played the game, they just don't have enough to challenge Michigan. If just a little bit better offense, I think probably a different
I think
score.
too that we got to think about is there's a touchdown taken off the board from Northwestern because it was the right call. There's an obvious offensive pass interference call, but that led to a field goal where the dude ran his route, but instead of turning and looking for the ball, he two-arm shoved our guy and got our guy off the route. And it's yeah, finally they call that, which thank God, because I get picks. I love the pick play, but when people start extending arms and stuff, it has to get called. But yeah, luckily this Northwestern team is playing scared, even though that they were able to do this and played on a bunch of short fields and still played super conservative, and luckily they lost. But it's not a way to live.
Game next week.
It's not a fun experience as a fan to watch this team dominate but play in close games basically every single week under Sharon Moore.
Yeah, I think next week's a sneaky game for you. It has been in the past too. So we'll break that. We'll talk about that later in the week. But let's jump to the Michigan State game. Penn State wins 28-10. Obviously, I was there. I think except for everything for the last big running touchdown from Penn State, KB. They really leaned on that running game. I thought the defense showed fight. That'll be my quick thoughts, but I can go more. I don't know how much you're able to watch, but I'd like to get your thoughts too before I can dig a little deeper too.
Yeah, this wasn't on my top viewership of the midday slate, so I wasn't watching this a ton. But Ethan Grunkmeyer, 8 of 13, and he had one really long 75-yard touchdown pass to Vontae Ross, which I think that they had been wanting for. And then they just relied on their running game and defense to really close out and choke you. Penn State has those dudes. They've recruited so well under the Franklin era. So they had guys, and they basically said, hey, the only way we fuck this up is if we turn over a bunch. Let's just win the game, get up early, and kind of just squeeze the life out of you. And that's what it was effective. Your offensive line is horrible.
Bad.
I
think it was the left guard got absolutely put in a blender by what's his face. He's really good.
Danny Dennison.
Yeah, Matt and I literally saw it from where we sat because they were rushing towards us, and he did a spin move and he barely touched him. No, Alessio couldn't really do much going through the game, and they blanketed Marsh pretty well. I think we had an open post on a sack, just didn't have enough time to throw it as well.
Yeah, just a really disappointing effort. I think I'm not going to shit on Marsh too much because obviously the QB and offensive overall play has been bad, but I think a disappointing sophomore season. I know he'd been battling through some injuries, so maybe that's the things lingering, but we were expecting, especially after his hot start, hey, look, you guys know what you have at least in a couple of these guys, and he had 2 receptions for 5 yards. And
you got to get the ball to him more.
They got to find ways. He only had I don't know how many targets, but your best player was Elijah Toliver, who had over 150 total yards on the day. He had 8 receptions, which your running back being your receiving
a lot of checkdowns.
Leader in catches by 5 is obviously an indication of getting the ball out quick and not able to really force the ball downfield. But yeah, really disappointing effort offensively on a team that Penn State has let up some points defensively. They haven't looked good defensively, all things considered. And I think your defense played well enough. It's just your offense was so poor in this game that couldn't really do much. Anything else, Chris, that you want to talk about? And we can linger here for a minute. You get your frustrations out. I know this is a very disappointing team.
Yeah, not super frustrated, honestly. I thought, these are my expectations. I've already come to the realization that the season is over and the team's not that great. And maybe Smith is gone. I still think he probably is. We'll see how that all plays out as we, coaching things are going to start happening now. Franklin is talking to Tech. And we're going to start hearing more things as the season wraps up in about 2 weeks and a little bit of change. But no, I thought the defense had a lot of heart, KB. 14-10 going into the fourth quarter. And the offense, besides the first play, 50, I think it was like a 57-yarder, that was all we had. I don't think Alessio had a lot of time passing. We know this O-line's not any good. You got to get creative. If your scheme is not working and your guys and your team aren't doing their job, you got to get Marsh in bubbles or jet passes or reverses. There's no reason to play it safe anymore. And we kind of did. And I feel bad for Alessio. I think he's a decent quarterback. We were on a decent drive because of two back-to-back roughing the passers. And then the next play after those, he gets a free rush again and he fumbles. You can't really blame him for that. Guys on both sides hit him and he fumbled. And then, obviously, defense is going to get tired. They've been running the ball all day. They had, how many carries as a team? I mean, they only threw the ball 13 times. So they had 50 carries, 25 for Katron Allen and 15 for Singleton, some scrambles by Gronkmeyer. And, they just leaned on us. And then you're going to kind of, I thought the team, like I said, played well. And then towards the end of the game, KB, when you're tired and you've been tackling and moving all around, they're going to break a long one. They broke 2 long ones. And then, that was kind of the game. The 75-yard pass touchdown was a great throw, wide open. It was, I don't know, a match, I think, where if you watch it back, Amarion Smith was right in front of us. He drops really deep into his quarter or third. Safety, Spencer, kind of fall. He comes in the middle of the field, then he matches the guy in the middle, and then the guy in the deep post, nobody catches him, nobody's close to him. Easy pitch and catch. So not a great play call. If one guy misses their assignment on that play, you're SOL, hence a long touchdown. But shout out to the defense again. Wayne Matthews, Jordan Hall. I know it's cool to see. I'm blanking on his name right now. Guy had a really bad injury and he's still playing. Darius Snow.
Oh, okay.
Glad he could finish strong as a senior day. Rukon Bluckley from Goblin Heights in GR. He played okay. He was in and out. So shout out to the defense. Just don't got the guys on offense. And like I said, I think offense is just a little disappointing when you have guys like Marsh, and then you can see the running backs have some juice, Velling and Mazunas, and obviously the other receivers. I just don't think we're creative enough, and we stick in our scheme when you could do bubbles or slants or, I don't know, just be a little more creative, especially with this battle line. But it's frustrating to say the least. I know that KB, it was a heck of a day in East Lansing. I was locked in bags, only lost one game. We were just rotating all day, won like 7 or 8 in a row, so that felt good. So we'll see what happens. J-Bad's got a lot on his plate. A lot of the other athletics are doing well, so that's kind of nice, but obviously football makes all the money, and you got to figure it out. So if that's NAL money and you keep Smith or you fire Smith and get a guy that can kind of rally the troops, and I think what D'Antonio did, I listened to a podcast, he met the fans where we were, especially after Little Brother comments. I think how he talked to the media and focused on the Michigan game and how he spoke about that really mattered to a lot of Michigan State fans. And obviously that was a peak for the program. You got to find a guy that can do that just a little bit. It's not going to be perfect like Antonio did it, but you need a guy that knows the rivalry, knows the Big Ten, knows the Midwest, and can recruit. Then obviously J-Back can throw some money, whatever Spartan Stadium presented by whatever. So obviously looking on to next year already and focusing on winter sports, KB, but shout out to the defense one more time. I thought they played well, and Ryan Eckley had a couple good punts, which has been the bright spot of the year. At Iowa is probably a for sure loss, and I'm looking to sell my tickets for the Maryland game, which probably won't happen, but that's kind of where I'm sitting. Disappointing to say the least.
Yeah, and I feel like every week we've gone on and we've just talked about the same issues. Not to be rude, but it's like, where was the growth with this team? This guy is supposed to be the developer. He's supposed to be not the flashy high-end recruiter, but he gets his guys in the building, and because of his culture is so good, and because he teaches them so well, they look better. And this team...
Penalties were better, that's about it.
This team just feels like the same team I watch every week. Oh, yep, there's another missed block, missed assignment. Oh, we're going to run another stretch play that goes for 3 yards. Oh, we're going to play action pass and get blown up because it's a long developing play. Oh, I haven't seen growth from this team that I thought that I would, because it's like, that's who this guy is supposed to be. That's who he's supposed to be. Like if you're not going to recruit and do all these top end things that good coaches do, you at least have to be able to develop them. And that like, hey, when it comes to November, you figure it out. And they just simply haven't figured it out at all in the 2 years that he's been there. And I think the last thing too is like Aiden Childs like being like
He was in a
phantom
boot.
injured. Yeah, phantom injured. He got injured during the practice. Like he's just that's a bad look, man. Like because like he was your captain. He's been captain, I believe, the last 2 years of your team. And like, is he actually injured? You know, like it's not something that came out like well ahead of time. Hey, yeah, Childs is injured heading into this game. It was randomly like the day of. Oh, he's in a boot. He's out, and that just feels weird. But outside of that, I mean, very disappointing.
Student section showed up well again, KB. I mean, I got to say the fans that showed up. We had a huge tarps off section. That's kind of going around big time. There was at least, it got to be at least a couple thousand fans up there doing it. So kind of cool to see kitty cornered from us. But yeah, I mean, the fans were showing up, even though we all know the season is dead and gone.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, do we want to talk about our last game here before we zoom around the country?
Yeah, let's do it. I think we were both spot on with this one, KB. Georgia wins 35-10. I didn't watch much, a little bit of highlights here and there, but when you can't run the ball, 17 carries for 23 yards, I think that's enough for me to notice. While the other team runs for 35 for 128. Stockton, once again, he's been very silently doing well, 24 for 29, 229, 4 tutties, and a pick. Also had a rushing touchdown, so 5 touchdowns alone for the quarterback. I'm assuming this defense played well against this Texas offense. I think Sark needs to kind of figure that one out if he wants to not play or call plays anymore. Arch 27 for 43. That's a lot of passing attempts. KB 251, a touchdown and a pick. Any more thoughts, comments? You know, we were both spot on. We kind of thought Georgia would run away with this one, and they did.
Yeah, I mean it's simply the fact of Georgia scored 21 points in the fourth, right? This is a 14-10 game heading into the fourth quarter. It's a close game. But when you can't run the ball, you have to throw the ball 43 times with Arch. It's just that's not a recipe for success. And I think that's one of the most disappointing things because we thought with how well they've recruited the trenches on both ends that they'd be able to stop the run and get the run going. Like, hey, baseline, they're going to be able to team that can run the ball and stop the run. And they just aren't that team this year. And a lot more of the responsibility is falling on Arch, and he's getting pressured a lot, and that's just not great for him. Gunnar Stockton was 229, 4 TDs, and Georgia didn't even run the ball well, but they stuck with it, 35 for 128, 3.7 yards a carry. That's just the difference, right? And I know part of that's probably in the fourth quarter after they're trying to dig down a lead, but still, they stuck with running the ball. Their longest carry on the day was 21 yards, and they were just able to grind out some things and control the ball, and that's the important things. 21 first downs to 15. Texas had 274 total yards to 357. So a defensive battle. And then Texas had 9 penalties for 58 yards. Like that, those things add up. You can't run the ball. So now you're passing a lot with a young guy, and you can't protect him well because the other team can really pin their ears back. And then you have 9 penalties on top of it. You're 2 of 12 on third down. That's not where you want to live, right? Like that's not a good place. 7 tackles for loss for Georgia, including 3 sacks. I know he was pressured even more than that. And I mean, I know Texas, they don't have really people will say Florida isn't a bad loss because that's just the world and reality that we're living in. But, 2 okay losses. They have Arkansas and A&M to end the season. If they could get an upset win at A&M, don't be surprised if they shoehorn their way or longhorn their way into the back end of the playoff. So, still, I think overall you have to be pretty disappointed with how much hype coming into the season Texas had and in some of the struggles that they've really fallen into. And then you look at the outside of this is like OSU. They have all the same challenges, but they just roll week in to week out. We haven't even had to cover their games because it's just like why bother? They're going to win by 30 points this week. So
they're dialed in. Yeah, curious to see how Texas comes out. Arkansas had another close loss, 1 point to LSU. That team has a lot of fight too. It's very similar. They don't have the horses or that little panache, I guess, to figure it out. KB. So tough being the Razorbacks down there, but yeah. Georgia, close game, and then they pull it out. Really lean on the run game. Very similar to the State game, I feel like, KB, where they didn't have a big run. I think the longest run until the last, I think they had an 8-minute drive. After the 8-minute drive, when I left, the longest run was like 14 or 20 yards, and then they got the two big ones. So like when you lean on that run game and you trust it, even though you're not getting a lot, I think that, kind of grinds down the defense, which can lead to obviously some more touchdowns towards the end of the game. And that can be the difference. In Georgia at home makes a difference there, 35-10 once again. But let's fly around the country, KB. It was a crazy freaking weekend. I'll talk about the game I was watching a lot last night, but I think the game that needs to be talked about the most was A&M, South Carolina. A&M was down, I think, three touchdowns or something like that. They come back and win 31-30. Unfortunately, there's another thing that's about this game where a state trooper...
Four touchdowns.
28. 27. Unfortunately, the state trooper looks like a dweeb, and he got relieved of his duties. I don't know what he's doing. If you haven't seen the clip, South Carolina guys with the tunnel, supposedly Nick Harbor, really good player, might have had a hammy thing. They're walking back, going towards the stadium. And if you watch the clip back, the state trooper definitely tries to nudge both guys and then reacts. And no, brother, you look like an idiot. So unfortunately, that was a thing. And then I saw Shane Beamer just going crazy. And then obviously A&M turns around in the second half, scores 28 unanswered points.
A shutout.
Yeah, and they get the win. Marcel Reed had 439 passing yards with 3 touchdowns. He had two picks. Didn't run much. The running game was not there at all for A&M, but they found a way to win at home. This is a game where I texted you about Ole Miss as well last night, KB, but this is a game where A&M has found a way to lose the last couple years when they kind of have everything going for them, and then they stumble on a game that they should win. I know South Carolina's down, but they do have a decently tough team, and obviously the second half wasn't for them, but they put up a lot of fight in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, really impressive performance. I mean, you do got to realize, right? It is a 1-point win, but it shows a lot of fight. It was 30-3 at the half. They come out, score touchdown. South Carolina turns it over on downs at the second here. I just had that. Come on. All right, this is not working. They turn it over on downs on a 4th and 1. They take the ball out of Lenore Seller's hands, which I don't know why teams do that so much. Turn it over at the 30, and then that kind of felt like it took the wind out of the sails. It was a 3-and-out punt, 4-play punt, 3-and-out punt, and then a turnover on downs, and the game was already over. They did nothing in the second half of this football game. A&M's team was absolutely fired up. It was a really impressive performance by Marcel Reed, overcoming those 2 early picks. KC Concepcion had an incredible game, and Ashton Bethel-Roman also had a really, really good game. So really impressive performance by both of them. I think you have to be happy with it. But again, we talk about it week in and week out. These are the games that people forget about. But in the moment, that was a pretty poor performance against a poor South Carolina team. We saw Indiana have a similar thing last week. It's common, right? But it's about can you overcome those moments, those faux pas games where you don't play well and win when you have your B+ stuff. And for the first half, they had their F stuff, and then in the second half, they had their A+ stuff. Mm-hmm. And so they had a C performance, and they were able to win and overcome it. But really, really, really impressive stuff to come back and win this game. And then a disappointing loss for Beamer, who was looking to get another signature win and gets shut out in the second half and looks completely overwhelmed and makes some poor decisions, and the defense just decided to say, hey, you can run by us, guys. We have a 4-score lead, but if you just want to run as fast as you can, covering you is optional.
Yeah, bummer for them. Let's do it next game, KB. I didn't watch a lot of highlights, but it needs to be talked about. Oklahoma wins 23-21. I know not a lot of passing from Mateer, but he had a rushing touchdown. Ty Simpson looked, the stats look good, but I might be missing something. 28 for 42, 326, a touchdown and a pick. Neither team ran that well, but they find a way to win 23-21. I think Bama might have had a chance at a field goal at the end, KB, that they missed, but you might have more knowledge.
They missed the field goal early in the second half at the closing moments of the second half. It was a high snap, so that would have been the difference in this game. But yeah, they outgained them 406-212. I mean, turnovers were the name of the game here. There were 2 fumbles lost, one on a kick return, one on, I believe, Ty Simpson had a fumble. Let me just check to make sure. Yeah, Ty Simpson lost the fumble. Ryan Williams lost the fumble on a punt return. And when you get out turnover 3-0, that's what happens, right? This is the same thing as they did this and they're still in this game. They controlled a lot of it. 23 first downs to 12, Sheesh. 5 of 13, and 2 of 3. And Oklahoma's offense was stuck in the mud a little bit. Xavier Robinson was their leading rusher with 10 carries for 34 yards, and John Mateer, he had 10 carries. Obviously, that includes sacks, but for 23 yards. So they didn't really get the ball running at all, even though they had 28 attempts. 10 of those were Mateer, avoiding sacks as they had 2 and, avoiding pressure. But really impressive performance by Oklahoma they got through that really, really dangerous slate. They still only have 2 losses. And they finished the season with what was at the beginning of the year seemed like a murderer's row. But Missouri and LSU, I think, are both super winnable games. They're both playing backup quarterbacks, if not third-string quarterbacks in Missouri case. And so this is an opportunity for this defense after going through Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Alabama in back-to-back-to-back weeks,
Sheesh.
winning there was a bye in between Oklahoma and Tennessee, but in 3 straight games and coming out with 2 out of 3 wins. You have to be impressed, and this team is looking to be a playoff team. All things considered, which I'm sure they're very happy about with kind of the up and down nature of the Oklahoma's coaching tenure so far.
Agree. 1,000% KB. Let's jump to, I know I got 4 more games just to quick talk about. This one is quick. I text you about this game, the Ole Miss Florida game. I text you, this is a game Ole Miss loses. And we would agree over the last 4 or 5 years they would lose this game. It was close down the stretch. I think I turned it off in the 4th quarter. I was just tired. I didn't sleep that well Friday night, and obviously a long day tailgating. But they found a way to win. They leaned on, Kaywin Lacey, 31 carries, 224 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also had, how many catches did he had? He had 2 catches for 5. So I really leaned on him. Trinidad looked okay, 26 for 35, 301, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. When I was watching, he looked okay. Missed an easy touchdown pass in the red zone on 4th down, but they really leaned on Lacey. I thought Florida had some fight. Once again, they have talent. This not what they need. Lagway was okay. I thought the Florida defense played pretty well when I was watching the game, but obviously Ole Miss kind of has it this year. I just wanted to highlight this game because Lacey went off, and also this is a game that you used to lose the past few years.
And I think what they haven't had the last few years is a run game, right? They were able to lean on it when things aren't going perfect. When Trinidad Chambliss, who has had his ups and downs after a really hot start, teams have really figured it out. And due to his size, I feel like he misses those more soft touched layered throws over the middle of the field and in the red zone when things start to get tight, which has been also a problem with the Lane Kiffin offense going back to his whole entire time. True. And why he struggled there, right, is scoring in the red zone. And, really easy and effective way to score in the red zone is just hand it off to your running back or have your running back carried in. And they avoid a huge upset. This Florida team, there was a huge missed pass interference call. The flag was thrown. It reminded me in similar ways to the Saints call against Minnesota, I believe it was, or Saints versus Rams. The dude gets completely decked by a safety coming down on a wheel route out of the backfield, and this time they threw the flag and then they picked it up. It was a pretty egregious missed call. I still think there's so many limitations in Florida's offense, which I think you have to be pretty upset about with DJ Lagway with how he's played. All things considered this year, he throws a back-breaking pick, but yeah, they win, right? And they basically punched their ticket to the postseason, all things considered, as long as they don't lose to Mississippi State. I think they should be good to go.
Fair enough. Couple more quick ones, KB. Georgia Tech finds a way to win 36-34. Boston College put up a fight. Lonergan, 26 for 40, 362 and 2 tutties. He had a good game. Turbo Dick, 11 for 141 and 2 tutties. They ran the ball well against Georgia Tech, but Haynes King once again finds a way, 371 in the air with a touchdown. He had 15 carries for 53 yards, and Malachi Hosley had 15 for 107. They found a way down the stretch to it. I'm pretty sure Boston College was up, but they came down, had a big drive, and made it happen. I think Bill O'Brien had a pretty big personal foul call on him as the coach as well. 1 in 10 for Boston College is pretty brutal after a barn burner game at East Lansing to start the year, and both teams kind of fell off the face of the planet.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to have some concerns about Georgia Tech, especially their defense. They let up 48 against NC State, obviously in that loss to start the month, and then 34 against Boston College. Good thing for Haynes King is he's thrown over 300 yards the last 3 consecutive games, so he's really put this team in the passing attack on his shoulders. But just have to be kind of upset with how they played. They've been one-score demons this year. They had a one-score win against Colorado, one-score win against Clemson, an overtime game against Wake. Then they win this game as well. So they're really dominating the one-score wins. which is kind of, allowing them to continue on this path. And we'll see, the last week of the season against Georgia, what that comes down to. I do want to jump on one more game here. This affects the group of five. Is there going to be a group of five represented this year? Everyone's trying not to. South Florida lets up 41 points. They let up 338 yards rushing for the Navy team that is, again, back in first place of the American, tied with 4 other teams, I believe. Blake Horvath also threw for 147 and a touchdown. Eli Heinderich had 5 receptions for 146. I believe he became Navy's all-time leading receiver with that completion.
Can't be a high number.
But South Florida, Byron Brown continues his stellar play, and this defense just continues to fail him week after week. 327 through the air, 136 with 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground, a 4 TD game for him, over 450 yards of offense in a loss. As USF, who had so many high hopes, has really struggled down the stretch here. With a 3-point loss to Memphis and another 3-point loss to Navy, 2 losses this year by 3 points, and obviously the big loss earlier this year against Miami. But really sucks for them.
Yeah, who gets in from the group of 5 then? I don't even know. The American Conference Championship, I guess? Champion? That has to be it.
I was looking at the standings. You have North Texas, Navy, Tulane, and ECU all at the top of the conference with only one loss in conference.
I got one.
Yeah.
They're a wagon. Their coach left them 2 years ago. They put up a 50 burger. Yeah, I mean, they probably don't have the talent, KB. Let's be honest, but even when your coach leaves and brings half the team with him, and you're still winning 9-10 games a year, that's pretty fucking incredible. So good coaching, good program all around for JMU. I know they moved up recently too from FCS, so that's awesome to see. And if they go 12-1 and win their conference championship game, if they have one in that conference, I don't know if it's a Sun Belt or Conference USA. Most of them have one. I don't know how you leave them out personally. I know there's probably a huge talent discrepancy there, but I would love to see the Dukes get in if they stay undefeated throughout the year, or they have one loss. I can look at who it was.
Yeah, they're in the Sun Belt Quists.
Got it. Who's their only loss to is my question.
Yeah, they're 7-0 in conference. I believe they lost to Louisville 28-14. That was a close game in the fourth quarter, I believe, and a long touchdown run sealed it, I believe.
And they have Wazoo and then Coastal to end the year.
Yeah, it was 2014, and a 78-yard touchdown run sealed it.
Yeah, I mean, personally, KB, that's who I would lean towards right now, but we'll see if they get any respect. I know the Sun Belt's not the best conference, but if they beat Wazoo and Coastal, they're 11-1 going into a conference championship game, possibly if they have one, and being a 12-1 team, I think the numbers don't lie, but I guess we'll find out. I know the American probably gets a little more biased because it's a better conference all around, but when a team wins every game except for one close one, hard to keep them out. But I don't know what that CFP room is talking about or thinking about, but we'll see what happens.
Absolutely, and that wraps it up for me, Quist. It was a fun weekend. I'm excited for more weekends to come with the way that everyone's playing. It's this is the time of year where these games matter even more, and our team's going to come out fresh, excited, ready to prove themselves, or they come out tight because they have a lot on the line. And we're looking to see how all of that plays out the rest of the year, but really excited to watch the next couple weeks, the next 2 weeks, having Thanksgiving as well. And that's just the fun part about football, right, is it's right in all the holiday seasons. So anything else you have to say, Quist, or I'm going to call it a night?
No, you're good to go. Go green. Well, I'm glad to be in East Lansing one more time, KB. Yeah, sorry to cut you off. You can sit one more time if you want. But yeah, good to be in East Lansing one more time through the year. I'll be there, obviously, for some hockey games. But we will see Spartan Stadium again next year. Disappointing year to say the least. But we got 2 more weeks to talk about. Go green.
Yep, go blue.